No, it's stuck to the sidewalk. I mean, the GPS just now kicked in? Smell the fresh wood. I've incurred the wrath of Pugnacious. Guess he's not a fan of Sting. All right, Winston, I'm on my way. Rosemary. I'm quiet because for 2 days in a row I've been walking late at night and I hate it. Yesterday I was walking after midnight. Today I'm walking around midnight. Basically, 2 unexpected tasks fell into my lap. I haven't written any tickets in over 2 weeks. I just get tired of other people's stupidity bogging me down. I still can't get over that, man. It's 1 o'clock in the morning and the ER is packed. No matter how you slice it, our healthcare system sucks. I suppose that's all about. I don't know. Let's just assume that they're... I can't assume it. Let's just hope that they're supposed to be there. No, if it was something bad, they'd appeal that. Well, I don't know. I've said that multiple times, is that I've been here long enough to where I once owned the intimacy of the night. After 9 o'clock, the lights in Dallas would just do that flashing yellow thing. I've always worked the night shift. One of my first jobs was working a 4-hour shift. I worked 2 different night shifts, well, 2 different evening and afternoon shifts. It's just, yeah, they're evening shifts, and then one was kind of overnight. Worked at a call center from... That was a stupid shift I had to work. I had to work from 4 o'clock in the afternoon, 1600 hours, to 1 in the morning. And that was because, you know, you see the movies and stuff, they talk about 9 to 5. And in your 8-hour day, a lunch is included. And as long as I've worked in Texas, we work asinine shifts where it's like, you don't get that hour lunch. You got to take that hour lunch, preferably in the middle of your shift. So it's not an 8-hour shift, it's a 9-hour shift with a 1-hour lunch. It doesn't seem like a big deal until you realize you have to, all the jobs I had in the past, I had to drive at least an hour to get there. I'd go up to the northern parts of northern Dallas, and on the border, all those little suburb cities or towns, like Addison and Carrollton. And so that was an hour-long commute because of traffic, an hour each way. So your little 9-hour shift becomes an 11-hour shift. I mean, somehow I was taking classes during all of that. When you work while you're going to school, you get robbed of the opportunity to absorb the material. You find yourself cramming in chapters on your lunch hour, or trying to get it in those wee little spots where you got some kind of free time, slack time. This is before I didn't even work out back then. When I first started, it was I was pretty much just going to school and working. I've had maybe one 8 to 5 job. It wasn't an 8 to 5 either. Once again, it was an 8 to, what was that shift? No, it was the temp job. The temp job, you could work 8 hours. You go take your little lunch, and it's like 30 minutes or something. I used to bring a sack lunch. I think I worked, no, it was 8 to 5. Once again, 1 hour. I'd wake up at 6 in the morning, get on the road, and wouldn't get there until damn near. Yeah, it took me 90 minutes back when I was going up to Plano. No, it's just as I look back, work robs people of their lives. And now we're discovering that work robs us of our innovations and being able to keep up with the world. I'm watching a video about thorium reactors, and it's happening in China's way ahead, Europe's way ahead. Here we're still talking about building natural gas power plants and coal power plants. People say, what's wrong with that? I was like, those things are high maintenance, polluting. You need a whole mess of them just to be able to output the amount of power that you would get from maybe 1 or 2 nuclear power plants. And you're watching, I'm looking at the stuff about the thorium reactors and how they can build these things in shipping containers. They're modular. You can sit there and you can stack however many you want. So basically they're making nuclear batteries. You can run these things for decades. They produce way more power than the coal and the electric and all that. I mean, the coal and the gas and all those other pollutant power plants. The nuclear waste they produce is manageable. Hell, in most cases, they're recyclable. They can take nuclear fuel from a conventional fission plant and use it in the thorium for breeding reactors. Finally found out what a breeding reactor is. Where they take the thorium, I think it was uranium-232 or 233, and the uranium infuses the thorium and turns it into uranium, and it continues this cycle, and it produces a lot of energy. The only thing I'm not quite liking about it is, because it's a breeding reactor, it can produce weapons grade nuclear fuel. And so it's going to be kind of a security nightmare when you've got these things all over the place. And someone can take some of that and make some pretty nasty bombs. What's the other drawback? Well, some people were talking about the molten salts degrade the plumbing systems a lot faster than anything else. So, and the what coolant was that they were using? Fluorine coolant. This stuff is really highly reactive with metal. They've been testing this out since the 1930s. They've just never been given the green light. Usually what that means is that there was something in it, something in the process that was too difficult. And so they went another route with fuel rods and heavy water reactors. The thorium reactor still uses heavy water. It just, they said, we're talking about this one had an onion design. Anyway, I'm kind of thinking that life was a lot slower before the 1960s and 70s, and before we got all computerized and everything, and we got a bad case of money brain. It used to be the old saying, that's just the cost of doing business. And you don't hear as many people saying that anymore because they're trying to leech up every dollar. So you no longer have an excuse not to be really lean and trying to squeeze out as much money as possible. This has been a weird summer. Here I am almost in the middle of June and it's 72 degrees. Usually by this time at the end of May, you've already got the first signs of you already got the first effect, the first feelings of the heat island effect, where it's sunny and bright and all this concrete gets lit up, and then at night all of that heat's trying to leach out of the concrete, and it just makes the air miserable. Last week I got a taste. Maybe somebody around here's got a weather machine. Sometimes I walk around in this and I think what I'm feeling are the tears of an iceberg. Icebergs dying. The cold water is dissipating throughout the globe. And what I'm feeling are its tears. This is the calm before the storm. It's going to start heating up and it's going to stay heated up. Now I get differing reports, some on the alarmist side, others on the cautiously optimistic side. It's really hard to find a realistic assessment. You got folks that think some magic MacGuffin's going to fix all of this, and then you got the other folks that say, why even bother, we're totally doomed. And I know humanity is going to survive. It's just going to suck. That's my take on the whole deal. There are going to be wars. There's going to be a lot of people dying off. There's going to be a few smart people living Spartan lives in climate protection zones, or I just shut right off like that. climate protection zones or the vaults or whatever you want to call it. In about 2,000 years, the Earth will kind of find some kind of new equilibrium, and then we'll have to survive in that new equilibrium. The hundreds of millions that are left. I don't know if we'll colonize the stars. I think we're leaving so much junk in low Earth orbit that it's going to be tougher and tougher to get out. I was wondering why this was running so long. It's an hour-long 8-bit tribute to Bach. I don't know what my mom made. I don't know, she said she was going to fry some fish. She wanted fish. Then she said tuna salad. And then she keeps bouncing around. I was like, just pick one. I don't mind. She did make some amazing quesadillas last night, though. Those were, man. Some ground turkey quesadillas. No, they were off the chain. Black beans and Spanish rice. What did we have the night before? It was what did we have the night before? I had to go to the ER and try to rush real quick to eat something, but it was what was it? Oh, I think I just finished off the leftovers. We had the pulled chicken. Pulled chicken, the barbecue beans, and the roasted diced potatoes. I love it when she makes salads. I just love salads. Just big giant bowls of salad. Just eat and eat, eat and eat. And salads are so filling, and there's a cacophony of different flavors. Now I'm thinking about getting a bike. Not thinking about, but you know, seriously, it was considering getting a bike. And the dog's not there. Weird. Thinking about getting a bike, and then something came up. Living in an old house. Oh, we found something. You need to get this fixed. I was like, all right. And I was like, go ahead and fix it. And then she said, and my mom's like, oh well, you're gonna pay that much. You might as well get her to remodel the whole bathroom. So I'm like, all right. Like I didn't have enough to do. Somebody trying to find somebody reliable and sane to do a bathroom remodel. And it has to be done because she's getting up there in years, and so I get a walk-in shower put in so she doesn't keep stepping up over the tub. I wanted to get it done while my dad was still alive, but they were they never do this stuff when I'm ready. It's always, we'll just kick that down now, we'll just kick that down the line, and then all of a sudden something major breaks and it's like we could have had that fixed. And that's the mundanity of life. When you start, I'm thinking about these things like I'm going to be there in another 20 years. And I probably got another 10 years max. Because right about 2035, about 10 years from now, like one guy said, America's chickens coming home to roost. Obama caught a lot of flack for that, and the guy, you know, he sounded like, oh, he's just so anti-American. And a year later, we're like, turns out he was on, and he was being honest. All the stupid shit we got away with after World War II, we're not getting away with that stupid shit anymore. Damn thing is still sitting there. Do I have a bag with me? Is it a kid's jacket or what is this? Yeah, it looks like a kid's reflective jacket or something. It's a hoodie for a little kid. I think that, and then all of a sudden I see the skinny wastoid of a person. Some zombie was wearing it. I'm like, all right. I've been walking by this house for a while now, and they got this bamboo and this nice, you know, they try to have this nice retaining wall. Looks like a byproduct of the 80s. And it's just falling apart now. So every time I walk by, it looks like a tripping hazard. It's about to come out of the thing and hit somebody in the legs. It would suck if you went by that on the bike. And all of a sudden that wood starts sticking out. It's been a while since I had to use my hand sanitizer. I can just see myself trying to squeeze into that hoodie. This is a hoodie for this is a girl's hoodie. This is a hoodie for a little girl. Oh man. There might be like 5 people who get that reference. And to those of you who do get it, remembering Jonathan Winters. You got anybody who's like that today? I think there's a lot of guys like that today. Humor's gotten a lot weirder. When I was a kid, I watched Looney Tunes, and it was slapstick and violence and physical humor. Every once in a while, they'd make a satire pop culture reference about a certain celebrity or something, and when I was a kid, I didn't get it. When I was an adult, though, it had replay value because I was laughing. I was like, oh yeah, I read about that person. And then I was watching the Looney Tunes that came out in like the 2000s and the 2010s. And it was, someone said, hey, you know what? You know what's wrong with Friends and Seinfeld? They're not animated. So they made Looney Tunes Seinfeld and Looney Tunes Friends and kind of bled it together, and it was just this weird sitcom. Bugs Bunny goes to the cleaners and they mess up his order or something, and then he's trying to get it back, but it's done in like this Looney Tunes cartoony style, and it's like okay, I guess that's cool. And then I got on Reddit and people were like, oh, that was the greatest cartoon ever. And I started to feel like that old man that says, I just don't get kids today. But then I see a cartoon that makes me laugh where it was I don't know who makes it. It got animals in it, and it's this little rat girl. She's like Gen Z or something. And then he's got this old polar bear. I think he was a polar, no, he's a crocodile. Some kind of albino crocodile, and he was like boomer or maybe my generation. And she's trying to talk, she's saying, man, you got mad riz and da 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 da. She starts using all the slang terms. He's like, what did you say about me? I got kind of a kick out of that. I laughed at people who were mad about Skibbity Toilet, or Skibbity. But in the 30s they had a similar word, skidoo. Like your grandma's slang was just as confusing as your grandson's slang. Speakeasies and I was thinking about that one where I was watching, I think it was the Royal Tenenbaums. And Gene Hackman looks at Danny Glover and says, look here, Coltrane. Danny Glover's like, Coltrane? I was thinking like Gene Hackman using beat slang. I was like, well, how old? It's like, oh yeah, he was that old, so. I mean, Joe Biden is that old. He's so old that his slang was not hippie slang. His slang was like the end of the era beatnik slang. Jack came out of the beatnik generation. Like we had a president that was so out of touch, he was a beatnik. Not a hippie. That would have been already out of it, but he was the precursor of the hippie. He was the beatnik. I was like, what the hell? Let me tell you something, Jack. I'm gonna be straight with you. And I was like, oh God. I was like, how old is this man? My dad was kind of part of that generation, but he wasn't like, you know, he's black. He can't be black and beatnik. Or I mean, there probably were some. It's just wasn't going to fly in certain neighborhoods. My dad was doo-wop. You know, all a part of that generation. And all the people talk about greasers and rock and roll. My dad hated all that. My dad came before all that. The current guy, somehow we skipped over, like we never had a hippie president. People say Bill Clinton. I was like, not really. I guess maybe he was a hippie president. Kinda. Obama was an outlier because he was like the 80s Material Girl kind of president. And he was a product of the early Spike Lee days. Then you got Trump. Trump is the worst of everything that happened in the 80s. Like when they had the 80s villains and the 80s drugs and the 80s lifestyle. Like he's the guy that was in Futurama. That they froze him and then they thawed him out because he needed a cure for, he was waiting for a cure for bonitis. And he comes there in the suspenders, talking fast, pumping up really hyping up this business that isn't really worth anything, and just doing a classic pump and dump. Despite the fact that he's in his 80s, he's an 80s guy. All that Gordon Gekko bullshit. An entire country run by these guys. Well, that's what we wanted. He was going to bring us business. I was like, this is con man. He's a flim flam artist. These guys are the reason that everything's so damn expensive. You think he's going to sit there and bring down the price of eggs? He's going to start making designer eggs. He's like, I don't know why you regular people are just eating chicken eggs. You could have yourself an ostrich eggs. All of a sudden they start hyping up ostriches and emus, and that starts getting put on a commodities market. Soulless corporate suits sit there and try to figure out how to make an emu lay eggs 24/7. They start genetically engineering them and putting them in some kind of weird factory. Americans aren't eating enough eggs. You start buying cartons of emu and ostrich eggs over at Costco. They got recipe books, and they've got different types of snack products that are based on giant eggs. Some weightlifting influencer sits there and talks about how whey protein is last year you need to start consuming more Ovid protein powder. Basically they're just selling you powdered eggs. Naked egg protein. That is a loud cricket thing. Of course, last year I heard nothing but whatchamacallits, cricket. I mean, cicadas. This year I haven't heard any. Let me put myself in the pause this. Oh wow, I should have been listening to this the whole time. There's frogs. There's that cricket back there, some kind of locust thing. And unfortunately there's airplane noise at midnight. There's that car traffic. It's nice out here. I think the last time I enjoyed quiet was in Oklahoma. It was almost quiet, but like I said, every once in a while you could hear. Fort Sill was the worst. The guys were firing off the howitzers and it sounded like thunder. Back then, the Army, I mean, I guess even still today, the Army doesn't really have a set schedule. They'll have guys out there at midnight, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, firing howitzers. You just hear boom, 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 boom. And so we'd say, hey, how far away are they? 30 miles. I said, where are those shells hitting? They're like 10 miles away. I said, what's their effective range? 40 miles. I said, so if somebody miscalculates. They said, don't worry, we ain't gonna have that happen to you again. And then he just kind of laughed a little bit, and I was like, okay. So it's going to be really confusing for people, if anybody watches this. Nobody ever watches my night stuff, because I never had a camera that was good enough to see in the dark, and I probably still don't. I don't know what this is capturing right now. I think I saw some of it yesterday, and I was like, that's not too bad. Basically, I'm capturing 4K darkness. I wonder how long it's going to be before they start tearing up the houses on the other side here. I just trip out because it feels like I'm in a game of Monopoly. I come by and it's 4 lots are down and they're throwing stuff up there as fast as they can. Once they got stakes up around. See, like they did theirs right. They put stakes up there and the tape, and you'd have to be a real idiot to step off into that. And I can tell they just don't give two shits about the people down here, or the people down here don't know any better or what, but it was just weird to me how as soon as I cross Linnell, feels like I'm in the stupid zone. You got everything all tore out. You don't have any kind of barriers up there. You don't have any kind of markers that say, hey, if I'm having a problem here, let me contact these people. Oh, man. Heaven help the people that buy the houses over here thinking that they were built by competent people. I wonder how much you pay for a house that was done right versus the house over here. So either this camera is still going, or it didn't make any noise before it conked out. But I put the battery door back on there and put the battery in, and I wanted to see just how, you know, how much I can get. It'll probably be about an hour and 15 minutes of footage. Just my luck, as soon as I cross over Linnell, there's some stupid shit happening over here, and my camera goes beep 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 beep. I'm like, okay, you just let the world know, hey, he ain't recording anymore. At least on one camera. That's how unreliable the GoPro would be as a security camera. Why I'm sitting here wearing two of them. Not GoPros, but cameras. So here we go. Midnight. There's some stupid shit going on down the street. Everyone else is long in bed. It's quiet as a church. But down here, there's some stupidity going on. There's stupidity afoot. Another spider. Yeah, can I get around her? No, she's... Alright, girl. I ain't gonna mess with you. It's a nice web you got going there. I just don't like where you put it. Barely got an erosion control barrier over here, and look like they abandoned it after a while. Got it all tore down. They got wood planks. You can see where people are tracking the stuff because the mud's all over the sidewalk. And yet, it used to be worse than this. Durango is fighting really, this side of Durango is fighting hard to be a nice street. And someday you may forget that there were morons living here. But you will be reminded that morons built this place. When something springs a leak, or falls off the wall, or gets torn off of the roof. All right. What the ever-loving fuck? That's the other thing I'm seeing. I was like, suddenly this like this became an auto repair neighborhood or something. I wonder what the Strong Towns folks would think about this. It's like, well, you know, we don't want to zone everything this and zone everything that. That's like, I understand. But at the same time, do you really want to be living next to somebody who keeps bringing in cars for repair? Like, I'm waiting for that quaint stuff where it's like they live in the bedrooms above, and below they've got a coffee shop or a bookstore or some kind of little meeting place or something. That's not what I get though. I was gonna say, where's my boy at? He sleeps in his car, in his truck. Parks it over here every chance he gets. Well, that wasn't too bad. They had that one little spot. What's up, kitty? Looking at me like, what on God's earth is that? Hi, I'm the weirdo. There was a black cat over there and a white cat over here. I'm gonna call y'all spy versus spy. Jesus Christ. That's like, it's like I was here last week and there was a house there last week. Well, stop living in the past, man. Ain't no house there now. See how they're doing this? Like they got the water thing here to wet it all down. They got an erosion control barrier. They're doing it right. Not like the morons in my street. Just come in, knock it down, got mud all over the goddamn place, and next thing you know, I gotta sit there and put in 2 or 3 complaints. Car is covered in asbestos and fiberglass. Why did they do it right here? Do these people actually make a noise? Have they heard something? Or is this just a company that does it right? And this enigma here that I'll never figure out, why is it so wet over here? Midnight and there's some dumb shit going on. And see, whoever moves in here, they're gonna get tired of that over there. To be truthful, it looks like they're surrounded on all sides, so they're gonna have a hard time selling this house. Okay, well they're gonna demo that one. Jesus Christ! I mean, that one's it's got the notice on there that they have. It's got a demo order. Wow. You wonder how long it'll be before Douglas, he ain't selling. He just had his bathroom remodeled and bragged about it. But it's not up to him. Douglas is getting up there in years, and pretty soon he won't be able to live by himself. That's one thing I ain't got to worry about, is growing old. From what I said about 2035, I'll probably get taken out by the first roving gangs or whatever. I know people think that, oh, it's not going to be Mad Max. I was like, no, it won't be Mad Max. It'll be RoboCop. Old Detroit. People act like that can't happen. I was like, it's happening now. This is old Detroit. Only, like I said, we're not going to have a cybernetic cop running around fixing most things. And even RoboCop couldn't fix Detroit. He kind of became a symbol for people to rally behind, but That's the movies. This guy's got the map light on. Wake up tomorrow and find its battery drained. It's not like I can knock on the door. Hey man, you left your lights on. Catch a slug in the I catch a slug in the chest. I go knocking on the door like this, and all of a sudden I'm gonna hear flushing noises. I never could understand why road guy Rob, you know, dressed the way he did, and then you're just like, you have to. You have to look like you're from some kind of transit authority or agency or something like that. Not to get people to take you seriously, just so you don't get hit. I'm running around here because I don't know, half the time, who knows what's going to happen. And I figure that if I'm walking around with a bunch of lights on, looking like a total dweeb, folks, like I said before, so folks aren't sitting there saying to themselves, you know, either he's the dumbest criminal that ever existed, or he's just some weirdo walking through the neighborhood. So far, there's no law against being a weirdo. Pervert, maybe. Unfortunately, like I said, I am the latter. And in Texas, it is against the law to be a pervert. In France, it seems like it's a prerequisite to be in the government.